Let's do lateral movement with Windows Management Instrumentation Command, or WMIC. Let's go into the session that we created from before. Let's check who we are and open up Windows Command Shell. Let's check to see if Peter Pan is a domain admin. As you can see, Peter Pan is a domain admin. Let's check our IP address. And remember from before, there should be a host at .132. Let's check to see if it's still up. Looks like it's responding. So let's see if we could do a remote directory listing of that host. We'll do dir remotely. And let's see if we could just check the C drive. As you can see, we have access to the host on 132, and we can see the listing of the C drive. Next, let's copy a payload over. I still have test.exe, the payload I created from before when setting up my session with Metasploit. So I'll use that. I'll just do a copy of test.exe over remotely to 192.168.122.132, and I'll put it in the C drive. Looks like it copied over. Let's double check. Let's do the dir again. And as you can see, I did the dir for the 132 host on the C drive, and I have test.exe on that computer now. Next, let's remotely execute it with WMIC. To complete my lateral movement, we'll run WMIC/node so I could put the target computer 192.168.122.132 process call create. So we'll remotely open up a process for 192.168.122.132 c test.exe. As you can see, it did create a process with process ID 2980 on the remote target .132. A new session was opened. Let's check it out. Let's go into the session. And let's check the process. As you can see, test.exe has a process ID of 2980, and the user associated with it is peter.pan. And as shown from before, it was 2980. We have now completed our lateral movement. In this video, I'll do a quick demo to show you how I do manual lateral movement with scheduled tasks. Right now we are Peter Pan, which is a domain admin. And the current directory we are in right now has test.exe, the payload we created to get a session on the current host. We could copy this payload to the target computer that we want to lateral over to. So let's open a shell. And we'll copy it over to the 192.168.122.132 host. And for this demo, let's just put in the C drive. Let's check the remote host C drive to see if it copied over properly. Looks like it copied over properly. Now we'll use scheduled tasks to execute it. We'll just name the scheduled task test. We'll set the schedule to only once and the date sometime in the past so it doesn't run multiple times. We'll have the payload run as system. And let's set the path to test.exe on the C drive. Now we'll run the schedule task to execute the payload. And we got a session 9 opened, which should be a system level session. It might take a second. And there you go. Run shell. Who am I? And right here you can see we are NT Authority system. Okay guys, in this video we'll be going over how to do lateral movement with SCM Service Control Manager, where we'll be creating a service remotely and then running the service remotely to execute a payload. Now you might be wondering why I have psexec up right now. Well, if you've ever used Metasploit before, you've probably run into this and probably have used it. If you have domain admin credentials, this could be a simple way to get a session running on a remote target. Now depending on what C2 framework you use, you'll probably have a psexec lateral movement option, and you might be wondering how it works. Well, the typical psexec module on these C2 frameworks most likely do it in a similar manner. For example, first it might create a randomly named service executable, copy it over to the admin share of the remote target, create a service on that remote target, and then execute that payload on the remote target, and then delete the file afterwards. So first, we'll need to create a service executable, because a normal payload would probably not be stable when you run it as a service. So let's do MSF Venom, look at the help options, and let's look under format. Check what types of formats there are for the file type we'll use. Let's scroll up a little, and right here you can see exe service. So just like before where we created an exe with MSF Venom, we'll do the same except create a service executable instead. Let me check my multi-handler to see which payload it's using currently. And now let's create our service executable payload. We'll set the L host to the same as the handler, the L port to the same as well, which was 4444. We'll set the file type to exe service, and we'll name it testservice.exe. Now that we have it created, let's upload it to our current target. We'll just use the Metasploit upload function just to simplify things. Let's check that it's uploaded properly. Now let's copy it over to the remote target. As mentioned before, PSExec normally does the admin share, which is just C Windows. But we'll just put it on the C drive. Let's just confirm it's there. And it looks like it copied over properly. Now let's create a service on the remote target that we want to lateral to. And we'll set the bin path to testservice.exe. Now let's run this service remotely so that it will execute the file testservice.exe so we could get a new session. Looks like a session popped up. Let's check it out. Taking a look here, we are now system, and that's because the Service Control Manager runs services as system.